Welcome to the third episode of Swiss Boss Mama. Today's guest is Lea. She got fired at the very end of her maternity leave, and instead of stepping away, she decided to take the leap that she had many times thought about taking, becoming a freelancer. Today, she successfully manages her own time and delivers her own value in her own terms. This conversation is about modern work in Switzerland, autonomy, and choosing entrepreneurship. We are filming at the Home Hotel in Zurich. Lea, welcome to Swiss Boss Mama, and thank you for being here in this wonderful setting that the Home Hotel is providing us.
Thank you very much for this invitation.
I'm excited to hear your story.
Likewise.
I've heard really good things about you, so we're going to unveil everything, and we're going to start with the warm up. For those meeting you for the first time, how would you describe yourself in a few words as a professional, as a mother, and as an entrepreneur?
I think a few words that describe me pretty well are boundless energy, pretty optimistic, and also kind of combining the two worlds of providing deep depth of emotions, but also having a certain lightness in life. And it's really funny because my husband always jokes that I take a lot of time to introduce myself. But I think, yeah, that's a few words that really show how I work, but also how I am as a mom, as a friend, as a partner. It really comes to having some fun in the process.
I find very difficult as well to do an elevator pitch of myself because it also depends on the day. How am I feeling? What am I going to be enlightening, right?
Absolutely.
So it's not so easy, but I think I got a good snapshot of yourself. Something really interesting about you is that you grew up between Taiwanese and Swiss roots.
Mm-hmm.
How did this bicultural identity and your early role as a bridge builder shape the woman you have become?
I think it's probably the most, it's probably one of the things that really shaped me most, because it's always a bit romantic, you tell yourself, oh, my upbringing really shaped me. But if I really look at it, it was the beginning of that role. So I was always kind of very certain to make sure that I understand how both worlds work. So in Swiss culture, no, you're very on time, you always finish your plate. And in the Taiwanese culture, which is a little bit Latin as well sometimes, no, you have big families, you always have a ton of food, you were never able to finish your plate, you stay up very late as a child, you drink Coke until you, I don't know, you pass out. And it was just very different worlds that we were brought up to. And I think especially when my parents also got divorced, I kind of stayed in that role as a bridge builder, bridge maker, whatever you call it. And it was not something that I always chose to, but sometimes also was just kind of brought into to be this bridge builder. Also in school, it was interesting that I was always the person that was like trying to manage between my peers and the teacher, to be the negotiator of, can we do this, and is this allowed? So it's something that definitely shaped me a lot.
Your son was born in 2024, and right before going back to work, you were fired. Can you take us back to that moment?
I'm just literally going back into this emotional roller coaster. So I think it was a very special time in the sense of we were going to Taiwan to see my family, to show off our son. And when I came back, I got an email by the HR business partner for an official meeting end of October. So I was already talking to Philip, my husband. It's like, whoa, that sounds off. So I didn't go totally unprepared into the meeting. And also knowing how things had shifted in that half year that I was working, like the divisional CEO left the company. There was a lot of change going on. So I was not like 100% unprepared. Yet when I was sitting in that room, and that's why I was like a bit quiet, I was just kind of going back into that emotional state. I was crying. I think that was the first thing that I realized after 7 years of being in a company, and I got a lot of things out of my time working at GF. I had 3 different roles. I was able to lead a team. I was able to lead projects. It was such a valuable time moving through all these different roles in design thinking, collaborative innovation. So the first feeling was sadness, especially losing all these colleagues that also some of them really became friends. I think that was like the first moment where like, and I was also frustrated. I was stopping to breastfeed. I mean, for moms out there, it's a horrible process sometimes. So I was really, at the same time, also angry. It's like, I'm doing all this preparation to come back to work after half a year. And now it's like, okay, you don't need to come. So I think that was the first wave of emotions going through. And in the second half of that 1 hour meeting, I was actually telling my boss and the HR colleague that I know today that I will be so grateful for them for that decision, because I was always thinking if entrepreneurship would be a thing. But then at the age of 35 with a young son, I was like, no, no, too risky. And in that moment, I kind of realized something big is coming up. I couldn't name it. I went into the forest. There was a forest outside the production hall, and I was walking in the forest and kind of soaking it in and saying, okay, that's the last time that I'm probably having a walk in that forest, because I don't go back there that often. And was kind of able to let all of it be there. The joy, the sadness, all this heavy mix, yeah.
You wrote on your intro that you sent to me that it was truly meant to be. First of all, how long did it take you to realize? Because now it seems like it was pretty seamless. Within an hour, and then the walk in the forest, you realize, okay, this is actually the place where maybe I was needing to be. But how long did it really take until you soaked that thought in and got ready for your next step?
I think when the meeting took place end of October, and then I was supposed to start mid-November. So I also took that time, that moment, 2 weeks later to kind of officially also start into my own entrepreneurial journey. So I had 2 weeks where I went to the sauna and had lots of time with my best friends. And I was sitting in Rio Bar. It's one of my favorite places in Zurich to also work, especially in the morning. Secret spot. It's very quiet. And I sat there. I had very like inspiring talks on the same day with 2 different women. And I sat there and wrote my first LinkedIn post, like, hi world, instead of going back to GF, now I try to do my own journey. So I think in that moment that I spoke into the world, I couldn't take it back. And I think that was really this.
It became real.
Exactly. In that moment, sitting there in that bar, taking more than an hour to really kind of formulate a message that was equally showing, again, all emotions, the sadness, but also that energy of there is something new and I don't know, but here I am. I think that was the moment where it all then kind of started.
That's when the journey kicked off. I remember the moment the hotel told me, yes, you shall record your podcast in our premises. That's when I thought, right, it's real. Yeah. It's actually happening. Exactly. So there was no way back. So yes, it is the way it is. Sometimes just a message out to the world is what is going to put you in the place.
Absolutely.
To do it, which is incredible. Many women fear instability after maternity leave. And actually there is more and more cases that I hear about of women wanting to return to the working spectrum, and they can't do it afterwards. It was your case, it was my case, it's my friend's case as well. In just a very small circle of people, this is happening so commonly. So what would you tell someone listening who is afraid of exactly what happened to you?
I think most important is really to first see case by case. Right. I think when you're let go of your workplace, there's different scenarios. No, you said before in German, Massenentlassung, or what's the reason? And then to get that minute of pause with friends, partners, also maybe with some lawyer support. So I have a friend who is a work lawyer, and I called him up, and it was just like, okay, tell me the facts, right? Is that legal? Is that okay? Whatever. And I think there is then different ways to work with it. You say, okay, do I need to want to do a legal case that takes a lot of energy, but maybe I need to fight for something that is systematically going wrong here. Do I take whatever package is offered? And I think in my very personal case, I had 6 months of notice period. And that was for me also then the start to say I have 6 months and I'm still paid. So that is the money that I put into my startup, so to say. So I think it's really case by case to say, okay, what do I want to do? Because I think the problem we talked before starting the podcast, it's not just our individual needs that maybe be changing once you have a family. It is very systematically that things are not put into place to balance different needs you have as a family, as an individual, as a person in a career, especially if it's in a corporate context. So I think looking at that whole thing, for me, it was really easy to say, you know what, I want to do it different, and I want to create it in a certain extent to my own rules. And obviously that was much easier than to say I do that in a company myself than in established roles that are often in bigger companies.
What did the first months of being an entrepreneur feel like?
I kept myself very busy in those first months. I actually, last night I went back into my agenda and it was so full. So November, December 2020, what is that, 2024, I just set up a lot of meetings with people that I always wanted to talk to, or also said, no, once maternity leave is over, let's catch up. And I really kind of tried to put myself busy in the sense of what do I actually need, and at the same time being very low fidelity, it's called in innovations lingo. What do I actually really need? So website, I just create a very simple prototype. It's like, hi, my name, I offer strategy, organizational development, talk to me, all the best. Because I realized somehow I didn't want to put too much time in the theory part, but get into doing mode as fast as possible to try to see if that actually works. Having my own business and helping other organizations on the same things that I've been doing in my past roles. So all these meetings really helped. There were different friends, colleagues. Stefan from Stimmt was one such an example. One of my partners nowadays, we had a beautiful Italian lunch, and he was like, I have a project. We work with that digital bank and we need somebody who works on the organization development part. And I'll send you a little draft mini associate contract over tomorrow, and then we can start working. You meet the client, we see where it works. And that was exactly the energy that I needed to go into that doing mode. In parallel, I had a friend who suggested to work with Rafaela, who worked with me on my logo, my colors, because that really boosted my self-confidence to have like my own corporate identity.
Absolutely. It's
And I
necessary.
realized what are the things that are important for me to be or look professional, because I've been starting, I did a few things in the past, more or less here and there, but now to say it all in, I invested into accounting software. Totally overrated at that time, but it helped me then to write my first invoices, send them out in a professional look and feel, and it just boosted my confidence to do these small things in parallel to actually start working on real projects and not just sitting at home, because that would really drive me nuts.
What do you actually do?
That's a good question. Let's start with, let's go back. No. What I've been doing now for the past year is I help organizations on their strategic and transformation journeys. So whenever there is leadership teams, and often it's individuals in leadership roles that are saying, hey, something is not going as smooth as it did in the past. maybe we've been growing too much, or it's the son and the daughter that took over the company from their father, or it's a new strategy that was launched, and then you have different people working on different topics saying, okay, we need to understand what's actually the essence. So I work with them on strategic workshops, I work with them on organizational development themes, how to be clearer on the different roles, how to have better decision-making processes that are helping them to be even better than they are today. And I think actually, now in hindsight, it's always organizations that are already thriving. And I really like that because it's helping certain people to become even better than being that turnaround, cutting jobs, consultant coming from the outside. So it's really more a facilitator that comes and helps them shape the process. And often it's about holding a space so people can share their views also on emotional level, what's going on, but also looking at the entire thing again from a system level. What is going on here? How can you tweak? How can we prototype little behavior changes that will bring the entire organization to a next level?
That is super interesting, and it's very thoughtful, I think, for companies to also get you on board to analyze their well-being in that regard, right? Because other companies could just go and go and go without really paying attention to the dynamics. But the fact that they are wanting to pay attention to this is very enlightening. So I'm glad that you are doing that. Let's talk about integrating work, motherhood, and self, okay? Which is, it sounds very simple, but actually it's a huge work. You say that you're proud of the integration of it all, not the perfect version, but the real messy one. What does that look like on a normal week?
Maybe let's take last week. So a week in December, you were saying, no, it's a sickness period in Switzerland. So last week I was sick on Monday. I didn't really feel right. So my husband's mother is taking care of our son. I was sitting at home doing a workshop online on the couch, not feeling really well in my tummy, and they come in, a poop explosion. So having the workshop in my ears, helping them to fix the pants. I think that was one example, now how these messy worlds come in and out. Then I was 2 days on Thursday and Friday. I was on a leadership workshop, and we were working actually with an all-female leadership team. It was so refreshing. I often work with more male teams, and again, no judgment. It was just very nice to see all these very raw emotions in the room, and I was like, that's great. Let's work with that. But they were also like very straight on, pretty tough businesswomen. I absolutely loved those 2 days. So I was out. I was in Bern, working there and staying over with my colleague Barbara. So no family at home. I went home on Friday afternoon, fell into bed, all headache. So I think that was also something to integrate, to say, okay, now I'm too tired. I have a huge headache. I think I'm getting sick. I canceled 2 Christmas parties, a birthday party on the weekend. And I think that's this combination.
I want to ask you something that actually happens to me often now that I am also an entrepreneur. Before, when I was at work and I used to go to the office, I used to have a lot of guilt for leaving my kids in the kita and not spending enough time with them. Now, first of all, I spend much more time with them than I used to before because it was a real corporate job that will take up my whole day. Now I do have more time with them, but also when I have these very intense days where I am not home and I have to drop them pretty early, pick them up pretty late, I have zero guilt. I have an inner motivation that is keeping me going, and it's making me just much more happy. Is that something that resonates with you?
100%. And I think we need to be very careful, right? I think in the fields we are in, that flexibility is actually possible. Now, again, thinking about different systems where people work as nurses, as teachers, you have to be, one of my best friends, she has to drop her kids at 6:45 at Kita because she needs to be in school starting at 7:30. So I think in that sense, I think if we have that flexibility, that's very important to do it. And I think that was really something I learned for myself. If you look at the entire like economic system, a lot of corporate jobs, they're designed that way because we were very effective maybe 10, 20 years ago. Yet now with all these changes that are coming on technology, society-wise, we really have to question if it makes sense sitting in an office from 8 to 7 in the evening, looking at your computer all day, sitting in meetings that are not really productive because you don't come on to consensus and decisions. So I think that is much easier in an entrepreneurial setup because you always have to ask yourself, no, day in again, am I investing my time? And in my current situation, I can actually also stop working if it doesn't make sense. If I'm tired, if I didn't sleep the night before, if, I don't know, my creativity is not flowing, I can take a conscious break and say, okay, let me do a yoga break or let me go and have a walk around the house. It's much easier to really be very in tune of what I need, what the system needs. And it's also easier than to jump in this afternoon. No, grandma needs to go home earlier. So after this session here, I will be going home and picking up at 12 or 1 in the afternoon. So I think that helps a lot in that sense of zero mom guilt. I think it's absolutely a horrible word. Can't remember who said that recently, but I think that's a big challenge that I see with my friends. You, again, from the outside, you get that notion that you have to manage it all. And that's just plain stupid because it doesn't work. It's not about the perfect work career, the perfect gifts for every friend that comes to your place. It's really about, again, at the essence, what is important right now. And you were mentioning Kita. He has beautiful people taking care of him. I think he finds days with us even more boring because we don't have all these toys and all his friends.
Well, my kid cries every day. I'm gonna drop him in Gita. Although then he doesn't want to be picked up.
Exactly.
It's this conflict in his mind. You just said that the work system that we have at the moment of arriving at 8 a.m., leaving the office at 7 p.m., and spending time in meetings that are not making any sense. Do you think, or let me rephrase it, how are companies digesting this? Because I get more and more people coming to me, friends and acquaintances, that just say, this doesn't make any sense. Is this the general saying in your world?
I think we have to, again, look at the bigger picture, right? Because our workplace came, and I'm currently reading a book from the researcher Hans Rosinek. It's called The Work Survival Balance. I really like the title. But it's really looking also at the historical context. How did that come into place? Now you had the Industrial Revolution and you had the World Wars. So the current workplace is really designed from that past. No, also still a lot in that machine analogy. And now, if we look about the next generation of organizations and us as a society, what do we need? We need to go back to the roots. So going back to the roots, again, that's very simplified, but it really means how can we have places that are alive, organizations that are alive, where people actually create value, which is financially, yes, but also for the society. And I think we looked at that whole thing. My clients, when we work together, they come with that notion something needs to change. And I'm not sure what it is. And that's why I'm not just hiring the next strategy consultant that will tell me exactly what I need to do, but I'm willing to work with Lea, who is asking us questions, who
It's
puts us
challenging
in
the
a
status quo.
reflection. Exactly. And often it's about slowing down. Because whether it's on a personal level as a mom or on an organizational level, when you make things slower, often things become aware. You're like, wait, why are we doing this? Is this meeting still valuable? If not, what can we change? But for that, also coming back a bit more into the meditation philosophy, you need to pause and to understand what's going on. And just that moment of observation will give so much information. And as you were saying, yes, it's beautiful to see that I'm earning a living with helping people to pause and reflect in order then to have a clear strategy again on where do we want to go, what's our next steps we should take. But it's much more a learning process and not just a we have all the answers approach.
In terms of trends within companies, where is the trend going in the regard that you are explaining just now of taking time to pause and redefining the short future?
I think again, it's very black and white, but I do think that there's two ways of dealing with that uncertainty. So one way is to say, okay, just more, no, more structure, more rules, come all back to the office. There was an example of a request from Germany where a German engineering company was bought by a Chinese holding, and we had a conversation that they would really wanted to pause to talk about the intercultural differences we were saying before. But in the end, they were like, okay, we don't have time. And that's one way of dealing with that uncertainty. You just try to push into the same direction, more control, more tasks, more KPIs. And then there's the other way, which is, wait a second, we need to pause and we need to really kind of see what's going on here. We need to evolve also in the way how we are working, the rules we have. And I think it's two very different approaches on how to deal with that uncertainty. And my luxury is that I have clients and partners that are trusting that more, let's say, more the learning journey approach, which is, okay, we still need to have very clear strategies. But within that strategy process, we need to learn, we need to adapt, and we need to evolve.
I love that topic, and I really hope that eventually companies will really, and I mean really, pay attention to that concept of people being people and not just machines, right? But perhaps I should read the book that you just recommended before, because it sounds really interesting, and perhaps it brings more light into the knowledge of this topic. Because everyone whom I talk to, of course, everybody in my circle are just starting to have families. Some families have one kid, some others like mine have two, a baby, a toddler, and I can just see how people feel exhausted. At the same time, having to perform every day at work and bring in the ideas, bring in the drive. Many of them are managers themselves as well, and I look at them, and I was a manager as well before I stopped having my job. And it's really hassling, like every day going to work with everything that is behind. It used to be like that as well in the past, but I have the feeling that currently there's more 50-50 families where both mom and dad work, right? And to get that distribution of tasks in the family while both are also running a managerial role, having teams to take care of, having things that they need to sort out, is very intense. And I wish to see companies being more aware of this and taking into account that the environment is more and more having people like that. But we will see. Maybe you have to come back in a few weeks and let me know what are the trends, because I could dive into this topic forever. What are you the most proud of today?
I think looking especially back into the last year, I think was having a very healthy family. No, I think it's the second winter and we're all quite okay. But also having like a healthy company that I was building, to say, also questioning what we were just saying before. No, I also want to, with my approach, question what is enough. How much money do we actually need? What is also enough in terms of growth, etc. And I think that combined with also a healthy relationship with my husband, we had a few weekends already in the last 1.5 years that we had time for ourselves.
I know, lucky you.
But I think again, right, that's essential. And I think one part is also a healthy me, maybe. that should be first. Healthy me. Because I realized, especially with the work I do and now the role as a mom, is I'm the energy. In both roles, when I hold that space for leadership teams to really reflect on themselves, to reflect on their journey, to work on the content at the same time, to work on their interrelational topics at the same time, I need to hold that space. And after every longer workshop, I'm dead. And that really made me aware that this, this big concept of me time is part of my, it's the resource I have. So if I don't put that into my work hours to also recover, I could not perform that deep transformational work that I provide to my clients as their facilitator. And the same with my son, because direct feedback in your face all the time. If I'm not rested, and sometimes you're just not with a little child, I cannot hold the space for him as I would like to. I'm impatient, I'm screaming at him, I'm switching to German because Chinese is the normal language. When I'm angry, I switch to German. So it's, again, a very nice mirror to say, I have to put that first. And I think that's something that I'm very happy at the moment, because I put that as a priority. Is it perfect? Nope. There is weeks that it's
What is
always
perfect?
exactly, but it works. And I think that's really what I'm super proud of.
I am really happy to hear what you're saying, and also you wrote a post about that very topic a few weeks ago on LinkedIn, I believe. And last week I signed up for the gym after a very long time, and my husband was at work, kids were in the kita, and it was my work day. But I started it off by going to the gym and spending a good time for myself. And so I went to the swimming pool, and I was feeling guilty every second of it. And your name popped up in my head, and I'm like, okay, I'll do as Lea wrote. I'm taking me time. But it's very difficult to feel like you deserve that time, at least for myself.
And again, it's not, how do you say, it's not your problem. It is a systems problem, because the whole society at the moment tells you, if you want, you can have it all. Missy, you just need to work a bit harder. You have a little bit more time for your relationship, and everything works fine. But that whole balance of having a social system that is deteriorating, you have to kind of, if you become sick, I have a very dear friend who has long COVID. I mean, shit, that's horrible. You're just all by yourself, because the entire system, we're like making it smaller and smaller. Switzerland is still pretty good, okay, but it's also like, as long as you're contributing to society and to the workforce, great. But oh, by the way, you also need to take care of your kids, and you need to make them super smart and super okay for school and etc. And all these things.
And take care of your relationships, because we need them to thrive as well. We need to have friends. We need to have social interactions, connections, to be able to exchange thoughts. So making time for that is one thing. Making time for your relationship, making time for the kids, making time for yourself, making time for the house. And it's so interesting to find the balance. And I'm so happy to hear that you've managed to actually identify it in the short age of your son. He's only 1.5, and he's taught you so much already. So good for you.
And I think we need to be very careful of also what we want and achieve. Like, I had a tough conversation with my mom. No, she was also saying, "Oh, your generation, no, you want it all." Back then, we were only, we're not allowed to work in Switzerland. You didn't even get like a, how do you say? You were not able to open a bank account until pretty lately, or you had to ask for permission of your husband to work. That's not like, that's 1 or 2 generations ago. So I was saying her, yes, the generation we are currently, young families, there is all these multiple wishes, but we also have all these things that we want and have to balance. And I think it's not about having it all, also how we had it prior to children. It's very different, because priorities shift.
You named a very interesting thing there. Your mom, 2 generations ago, well, actually 1 generation ago.
Just 1 generation ago, yeah.
Sorry, mom. Comes to tell you that you're actually lucky. So this is also a battle that we have, right? Because we are believing this that we're saying right now, that we need to have room for everything, space for everything, and we need to honor ourselves as well. But then you speak to the previous generation and they're like, oh, you're so lucky that you actually have the choice.
Yeah, and I think also looking at yourself as a mom, as an entrepreneur, it's still doing a lot of things first time. Looking at Switzerland now in specific, there is not that many examples. So I think it's really essential also, the exchange I have with my friends, or also in the network with other women that are doing similar things. It's just to understand, A, we're not alone. B, I love that. That's a really nice quote. We had a dinner once with the ex-CEO of ABB, and she had a Swedish husband who stayed at home, and her career advice at that dinner table was to choose your partner wisely. Because again, and it's all in the system, the setup that we are working in at the moment, double income, family, etc., is something that is new to the system. So a lot of things, no childcare, social support, everything has to still change in that direction. We're, for example, not legally married. We did a contract because the current system is still favoring the old one, which again was not bad maybe back then, but currently it's not mirroring the reality. You cannot live in Zurich with one income alone. So I think always also considering the historical context that we're working in. Yes, we are lucky. I'm very happy and lucky that I'm born in this day and age. But it's also, again, pushing the boundaries for what's coming next for the generation of our children. And I don't know how the world will look like. I'm still I'm very honest, pretty hesitant on the AI sphere. I'm really focusing currently on that human intelligence, so to say. And I think, who knows?
It's the one that we have, right? So
Exactly.
we better rely on it. And what would you say to women who find themselves currently a little bit saturated, that are wanting to find that level of peace of mind that you have right now of honoring yourself? So it doesn't need to be mothers. It can just be any sort of women, because let's not forget that we have women in the workforce who are wanting to have families and can't. Some others who have had a frustrated attempt to have a family, us who are mothers. What would you tell to someone who feels like that, who's like, they don't see the light, they just feel they're in the spinning wheel?
I think number one is I feel you. And it's okay to feel that way. I think that's often what I see. It's, and also men, same advice to men. I think it really is like, I feel you, you're not alone. We all have that feeling. And the second thing is really, what can we do right now? Is there a little tiny thing? And again, if you have a screaming child at home that never sleeps, it's all this smart advice is just in your face, literally. What are tiny, tiny islands that you can give yourself? Is there 5 minutes that you can go out? Is there external help? Family, friends, neighbors, whoever, to just give you that moment to pause. Because it's like a battery, if you're always on the red part of your battery, it's hard to recharge. So I think that's really the first step, is just how can you step out? And it doesn't need to be a 1-week yoga retreat. That would be beautiful, by the way. But again, reality, what are little tiny islands? Because I see that with many humans out there, parents specifically, that we want to do it all ourselves. So I think that was, again, the spillover of capitalism system. You can do it all yourself. You just have to be strong and work more and work harder. And I think especially when raising family, that's just a very stupid advice. Like, we're not a species that was designed to have children by ourselves, by two people. You always had somehow
A support
your village.
network.
Exactly. And nowadays that you don't live in the same city or the same country with your parents, you really have to redesign that. Whether it's babysitters, it's neighbors, whoever, but asking for help. And I think that's maybe that one advice. Asking for help is so essential. it feels very vulnerable, and at the same time, it's the biggest gift that we can give ourselves.
I completely agree with that. Absolutely.
I have wet eyes now.
It's not easy sometimes to ask for help, not because of the vulnerability, but because sometimes it's just you're just in the turmoil. You know you're not feeling at the best, but you're also not able to pinpoint exactly what it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it doesn't come as easy. And I believe what helps the most is to have conversations, to get out there and speak to other people. And this is the reason why Swiss Boss Mama was born, just so that people are not alone or don't feel so lonely in the journey, especially women, because it is such a common thing. You just feel drained, but you don't know why. And I heard this very interesting partners dynamic theory of, or it's not a theory, it's just a solution of whenever it comes the end of the day and you have to finish the day, right? Which is very beautiful because wrapping up the day is a nice thing, but also it's normally when you're at the very last resorts of energy that you have of the day, that you and your partner communicate and say how much of your energy or your battery that you said before is left. So then if you would say to your partner, I'm at 20%, it's so easy, just say 20%. And then your partner says, okay, I'm 25. Okay, you've got a little bit more left, so please give in a little bit more than I. Then the tables turn. And it's just asking for help and also communicating as much as possible what you're feeling and what you are struggling with. And I invite everyone to do it because it's powerful and it'll help a lot. Thank you for that. I actually have a question about your time at Bucherer.
Bring it on. It's been many years.
What is the craziest sales story that you ever lived when you were there?
Well, there's two stories that really touched my heart. So, I mean, the crazy one is it was also a period prior to the anti-corruption campaign in China by Xi Jinping. So you would actually have quite a lot of people with a political passport coming to buy, expensive watches, and there was people that would carry cash. That was like, I was never holding that much cash in my hands before. And the second story was back then, Bucher also had a watch, how do you say, a department with the Swatch and the Flick Flack watches. So Flick Flack is the one for children. And there was a little girl coming to buy her first watch with her father. And her arm wrist was so tiny that I actually could wrap the watch twice around her arm, and she was so proud. Like that face, I will literally never forget that little girl's face. She was just beaming.
Oh, so beautiful.
Pride.
Swatch. Actually, I have a very nice story with Swatch as well. My dad gifted me a Swatch when I was 6 years old, and I still keep it, and I gave it to my son. So he's 3 years old, and he wears it pretty much every day, and he loves his Swatch, his Flick Flack. So this is when they say that watches are timeless pieces that go generation after generation, right? And it's true. And that's a really, really cute story to finish up. Again, it's intertwined with the maternity-paternity thing. It's the story of a father who went with the daughter. We just have to enjoy every moment of this journey, right? And it's not so long. They grow up very fast. And thank you so much, Lea, for sharing your thoughts, your knowledge, and your experiences with me and with everyone who's listening here.
Thank you.
I'm sure you will be back because this topic of working dynamics is fascinating, and I believe that you are rocking it. So I'll welcome you one time again.
See you soon again.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias a ti.